the regional school aid hearing for Andover, Hebron, and Marlboro. We're starting a minute early because although it doesn't say so, there was a request for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please, or if you will please, the flag is there. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is a notice hereby given that a public hearing will be held in the auditorium of the RHAM High School in Hebron, Connecticut on Monday, April 2nd, 2018 at 7 p.m. to discuss the following. 1, to present and discuss the Regional School District Number 8 proposed budget, and 2, to present and discuss the Regional School District 8 proposed capital budget for 2018-19. And I know that there are public comments this evening. Mrs. Shea is going to read several letters that were sent in, and then any other public comments. Yeah, but we should do it for now. Yeah, we should do it now. Or after the presentation. Well, I would do the comments first because they came in before the presentation.
This public comment on the agenda. Yeah.
That'd be a bit for the special meeting.
Sorry. Thank you.
It says to present and to discuss. Present first, then discuss.
Okay. Can you just please read those?
All right, I have,
You speaking?
hello. Hello, I have 3 letters. The first is from Doug Knowlton, Chair of the Marlboro Board of Finance. Due to another commitment, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, but would like the following comments read at the meeting. As the Marlboro Board of Finance Chairman, I feel it is necessary to communicate the effects of the RHAM budget on the town of Marlboro. While we acknowledge that the RHAM budget is relatively conservative, the 1.93% increase in the operating budget is the largest increase to any of the operating budget components in the Marlboro budget. The local BOE's increase in its operating budget is only 0.3%. The Board of Selectmen town operating budget decreased by 0.23%. The RHAM budget represents a $457,000 increase overall at a time when we are faced with substantial decreases in the amount of aid from the state. $276,616 of that amount would have been assessed anyhow, even if the RHAM budget remained the same as last year, due to the ratio of students among the 3 towns. $180,383, however, is due to the increase in the budget itself. The impact of the RHAM budget on Marlboro is that it's more than a 5% increase. Represents 37.84% of the overall tax rate and drives the tax increase to 4.98%. By contrast, had the RHAM budget remained level, the tax increase would be only 2.74%, driven mostly by the losses in state revenue. As it is, Marlboro will need to absorb these increases in revenue losses by adjustments to its local BOE and town operations budgets, since a 5% tax increase will simply not be supported by the voters. Please do not make further increases. We would, of course, prefer that some cuts could be found to the proposed budget. Douglas Knowlton, Marlboro Board of Finance Chairman. That's the first letter. The second letter to the RHAM Board of Education is from Susan Lesser, 38 Ridgewood Drive, Marlborough, Connecticut. Due to another commitment, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, but would like the following comments read at the meeting. I am a resident of Marlborough and am extremely concerned about the tax impact the RHAM budget will have on Marlborough. The RHAM overall budget increase of 1.93% is the largest component in the Marlborough budget. The town operating budget decreased by 0.23%, while the local education budget increased by 0.3%. The impact of the RHAM budget on Marlborough is more than a 5% increase. These are difficult times for most Connecticut municipalities due to cuts in state aid. However, many people simply cannot afford a 5% increase in taxes. I believe taxpayers will not support this increase. Please do not increase the budget any further. Rather, I implore you to try to find additional cuts in the proposed RHAM budget. Thank you for your consideration. Susan Lesser, Marlborough Board of Finance Vice Chairman, but speaking as an individual. The last letter, the third letter, is a letter from Deborah Bourbeau, 174 North Main Street, Marlborough, Connecticut, to the RHAM BOE members. As I am unable to attend your meeting, I ask you to read this letter into the minutes, please. I am an alternate member of Marlborough's Board of Finance. I recently listened to a presentation by Dr. Law at our board meeting concerning RHAM's upcoming budget proposal. Obviously, a great deal of work was put forth on this budget. My comment is simple. Each town is experiencing difficulties in their budgets due to state decisions. In order to absorb the loss of revenue, towns are being cautious and conservative in their budget proposals. Student populations are declining locally, yet budgets are increasing. We in Marlborough are looking at a 5% increase from RHAM alone. I encourage the board to look for any other areas where savings could be found. I also ask that no new proposals for spending be made. We are in the beginning of many lean years, and we all must work together, especially in a regional alliance such as ours. Large tax increases won't be tolerated by the residents. Please do whatever you can to reduce your budget. Respectfully, Deborah Bourbeau, alternate member of Board of Finance, speaking as an individual. That's it, thank you.
Okay, public comment.
Hi, Meg Clifton. I live at 10 Cottage Lane in Amston/Hebron, Connecticut. Also, full disclosure, I'm a teacher at the high school. One thing that I just wanted to comment on, actually, in response to those three letters, I think it's important to note that the Marlborough, the population of students who attend Marlborough Elementary School is around 500. So they have 500 students that they are budgeting for, and we have for RHAM somewhere between 14 and 1,500 students. So obviously it's going to be significantly more money to educate over 1,000 students in grades 7 through 12 than it's going to be to educate 500 students in one town. So I think it's important that when the board is making decisions that they take into account, like, yes, there are, each town is contributing to it, but just because it's a regional school district doesn't mean that once kids hit 7th grade, we're like, well, you get nothing. So I ask that the board please take that into consideration, that when you have a school with a much larger population than the elementary schools, there are going to be additional financial needs. Thank you.
Public comments.
Hi, Dick Shea from Marlborough, member of the Marlborough Board of Selectmen, but speaking as an individual. Unlike the letter writers, I couldn't find anything else to do tonight, so here I am. I've been able to follow this budget process fairly closely as the liaison to the Board of Education, and I think generally the budget is well developed and has taken a considerable number of measures to control spending and to make actual reductions in staff, both at the administrative and education direct level. As the letters indicated, we have a bit of a special situation in Marlboro because of the population shift, but primarily because of the reduction in state aid. The current numbers would leave us with just under a 5% tax increase. Last year, the tax increase was 3.85%. It didn't go over very well, but it did pass. This year, I don't think an increase of that magnitude will. And I am hoping that at the very least you will avoid any further increases in the RAM budget. And of course, if you can find further reductions, that would be much appreciated. We have another factor that you need to keep in mind in Marlboro, and I'm not sure how to allow for it, but we had a charter change this year, which means that our current town budget, rather than be elected or pass the good old New England way with a town meeting, is now going to be voted on at the same referendum on the same day as the RAM budget. That means we're going to have a larger turnout. We never had a very good turnout for RAM. I like to think that the people who came out and voted were people who had an interest in seeing the school do well. But this time we are going to have people who, looking at a 5% tax increase, are going to be in a decidedly negative mood. And I think that the risk of both budgets being voted down at the same time is significant. Of course, you can never really tell for sure, and I don't have a crystal ball, but that's a new factor. And the other factor, which many of the longer-serving board members are well aware of, is if the budget fails the first time around, the inevitable step is to cut it the second time around. So anything you can do to sweeten it up on round one would be much appreciated by the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other public comments, then we'll hear from Dr. Law, and we'll have, if there are additional comments after that, you may come forward with your remarks.
Good evening. Daniel Larson, 147 Hope Valley Road, Chair of the Board of Selectmen here in Hebron, but speaking as an individual. I'm glad to see that there have been much work done on the attempt to control expenses. I also realize how hard a task this is to perform. We've had to do it on our own town budgets. That said, as I have stated before, roughly a 2 to 4% yearly budget increase I feel is not sustainable, and I have mentioned this to your body before. Every other entity which composes our local budgets are getting hammered. I ask you as board members to take a look at your respective towns as you go forward. Try to find, common ground. Try to find numbers that will pass the first time. I, again, have no crystal ball, but with the state being the state, people are nervous, people are scared, and you're the only entity at this point in time that has any kind of budgets that are actually growing. So, try. You've done a great job. Keep up the good work, but see where else you can possibly trim. Thank you.
It might be beneficial if the board finds a seat so they can see the presentation as well, and I know that Mark's going to dim the lights. I want to start by thanking everyone who came out tonight to be part of the presentation and part of the conversation. Thank you very much for being here.
I'd also like to welcome Stephanie Bancroft as one of our new board members, and she's stepping in right at a busy, critical time, but she's certainly welcome here as part of our RHAM Board of Education. So tonight, I'm happy to present a little bit about my budget that I've proposed to the Board of Education, a little bit about the context and the reasoning why behind this budget, and then certainly we'll have an opportunity for more public comment. Providing a little bit of format for the presentation, I think, is important. And there is a statute that talks about how the budget should be presented at the May presentation where we move toward referendum. So I'm going to try to structure this presentation so that it mirrors some of what those expectations are. So when we talk about tonight's presentation, I'm going to first start with our current financial standing as a district, because I think that's helpful to kind of put that into our context right now. A little bit about our current district vision, and our mission, and our commitments, and our strategic plan, because that sets the base for everything we're talking about. And about our district data and information. Where are we right now? Then we'll talk about needs moving forward, how those needs are going to be realized in the budget, and what does that then mean for a financial impact in the budget moving forward. So let's start with our current financial structure and where we are. As of the March 19th Board of Education meeting, we had total revenues of $124,000, total expenditures of $190,000, and when you're spending more than you're taking in, you know that you're running a deficit. We have been running a deficit this entire year. However, right now we're only at about $66,000 of deficit, and we started our deficit much, much higher this year, around $700,000. So through a lot around budget freezes and a lot of very fiscally conservative work within our budgeting process this year, as well as some hopeful expectations around our excess cost revenues, we're hoping that we're hoping to finally turn that deficit around, but this is currently where we are as a district. Other information that just occurred at one of our board meetings was the audit for 16-17 was completed. And I'm going to just give a brief overview of this, and if there's more questions moving forward later, we can certainly listen to those. The beginning district fund balance, according to the audit, was $459,000. However, of that $459,000, we do not have all of that money uncommitted. There is much of that money that is committed already to capital projects. And what's really important to understand in this audit is that $459,000 is the accumulation year over year over year of funds that we've had left at the end of the year that the board can then commit to a capital non-recurring fund, or they can give back to the towns, or they can commit to a sick and severance fund. So this is the year after year after year total. In there, the board has committed quite a bit of money to capital projects. We also know that at the end of the 16-17 audit, the auditor found that the district was in a deficit of $95,000. When we take that $95,000 and subtract it from the $459,000, we end up with the current state of the district, according to the auditor, of the $363,000. Of that $363,000, $297,000 is committed. That is already being spent on capital projects the board has put forward in different board meetings over time. That leaves us with about $65,000 that is uncommitted. It is the responsibility of the board at the end of every fiscal year that if there are surplus funds and they are uncommitted, that they commit them in some way. And so the board, by the end of this fiscal year, in the end of June, will have to commit that $65,000. They can do it to capital non-recurring, sick and severance. They can also use it to address a possible deficit that the district is in right now. We're not sure where that will end, but that is a possibility. It's important to have this context because where we are now impacts where we are going and moving forward next year. Our mission. Our mission really drives and talks about where are we going, as well as our vision for the future. And it talks about safe learning environments for our students. It talks about active learning environments. It talks about college and career ready. It talks about opportunities for our students. And those are important. That's what we're here to make sure that our students are ready for college and career. As we moved through this year, we also started to draft a strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, we drafted and created a theory of action. And the theory of action is the process the district believes we are going to use to realize our vision and our mission. So when you look at that theory of action, you talk about high quality leadership and instruction. You see words like active learning, rigorous, challenging, core competencies, innovative learning opportunities, extracurriculars. Because we want our students to do what? We want them to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills that are necessary for success as informed citizens and to be ready for college and career. We believe if we do all of that, that's what our students will be when they graduate from RHAM. And through the strategic planning process, we also have commitments that we are agreeing to as a district. Now, mind you, these are still in draft form. They're going to the board at the end of April for a discussion. But these commitments are important, and they really came from a lot of discussion with our strategic planning committee. First and foremost, developing fiscally efficient and accountable budgets, which is, I believe, what we have here tonight. As well as our welcoming and accepting and safe environment, making sure that we are globally competitive, that we retain high-quality staff, and of course, we engage our community because we need to work together through this process. So our vision, our mission, our theory of action, and our commitments really guide where I came from in looking at our budget, our district needs, and the proposal you'll see moving forward. There's other parts, though, that impact the context of the budget. So first and foremost, after the strategic planning, we have the town and the state and the district budget issues. We've heard about the state budget issues all year. We just heard a couple of people talking about town issues, which are very, very real for everyone. And as you know, if you followed our budget this year, our own deficit that we've had as a district for the year. Very impactful to the budget process moving forward. As well as declining enrollment. When you take a look at the projected numbers moving forward, we're projecting 83 fewer students just next year between the middle school and high school alone, mostly at the high school when you look at those numbers. And we project continued declining enrollment moving forward. Other impacts and context to the budget. Increased state mandates, most of which are unfunded or underfunded. Most recently this year, the TEAM model. TEAM model is for our new teachers. The state was funding it, then all of a sudden they said, hey, we're not funding it this year. So please take on funding it. You're still mandated to do it. And you have to take on funding it yourself as a district. So we had to find that money this year because we have new teachers and we're required to provide them training and support. Class sizes. At the high school, we have over 34 classes that have 10 or fewer students. We really need to look at our class sizes and utilizing fiscally responsible planning for classes moving forward. 10 in a class is nice, but it's not necessarily fiscally responsible. As far as planning for our VOAG and our magnet schools, it is a choice students are allowed to do. They can choose a VOAG or a magnet school. We certainly want a programming here that keeps them here, but some students still choose other options. Right now, we have a slight decrease in the number of students going out to magnet and VOAG schools. However, we're still planning for about 60 students. We need to pay the tuition for those students when they go to those VOAG and magnet schools, so we have to budget for that. Special education and 504s, and I'll talk more about that. We do have an increased number of 504 students and special education students this year, both in-district and outplaced. We really need to take a look at our programming and our processes to make sure that we're servicing these students well and meeting their needs and keeping them in district. And as many of you know, I see you at a lot of other events, our facility is a wonderful facility, but it is used all of the time, outside and inside. And that use is wonderful. It's a great community center for everyone, but it also means that there's a lot of wear and tear on our buildings and our facilities, and they need constant upgrades and updates. Because if we don't, then we'll have bigger issues down the road. What else do we know about our budget? We had 2 contracts that settled this year, the teacher contract and the non-certified contracts. So we have those planned raises. And as we did our budgeting, we also call all of our contractors and people we work with, and we ask them, what are you anticipating for increases for next year so we can budget? The majority of the people we spoke to said, plan for a 2 to 3% increase. So given all of that, what's most important? What's most important is continued innovation and preparedness for college and career for our students. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're required to do. A little bit of history around our budget. You see that if you've been to any of my other budget presentations over the past month, you'll notice that this bottom number is now slightly different, and I'll explain that. Right now, we have a 2.02% increase in the operating budget. I needed to put back in a 0.4 family consumer science teacher at the high school due to enrollment numbers that we now have in through the enrollment process with students. We cannot meet all of the elective needs of our students at the high school without putting that 0.4 back in. Again, I've talked about this before, but one of the things that we as a high school have to do differently than an elementary school or even a middle school is we have state mandates around required credits for graduation. And our students have to take the 4 English and the 3 math and the 2 science, but they also have to have electives. And we have to be able to provide courses for all of our students to be able to take in order to graduate. So we need to be able to properly make sure that we can schedule our electives. Our numbers were a little higher than we had really anticipated, and we don't have enough elective offerings for our students. So I did put in I put back a 0.4 family consumer science. You'll see that later in the presentation as well. The capital remains at a 0.03% increase for a 2.05% increase right now, and I'll talk more about that. Per pupil expenditure. It is a state formula that has been developed that allows all towns and districts to be able to calculate their per pupil spending equally. Now we know there's lots of other ways you can look at per pupil spending, but this is what the state uses. And this state formula is used for other ways that the state determines funding to districts and towns, so it is an important formula to understand. When I looked at the per pupil expenditures of just secondary school districts like we are, RHAM has the lowest per pupil expenditures of any secondary district in the areas. Region 1, Region 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 19 all spend more per pupil. So when we're talking about the money we spend on our students, look at those faces, our students do great things. Now I know you've probably heard some about the athletic accolades that have happened recently. We've had volleyball and girls basketball, but we have academic accolades. We have the students that are having their artwork juried. We are having our chemistry Olympiads placing top in the state. We have students doing great stuff because they have wonderful opportunities and wonderful teachers in their classrooms. RHAM Middle School. We have a whole innovative program there around an inquiry academy. We have connections with our community through our veterans programs that we do and through AHM and partnering with them. And even when you take a look at our district got the Green Circle Sustainability Award because we are working very hard to make sure that we are also economically sound and thoughtful in what we're doing. So what does that mean? It means that Hebron and Andover and Marlborough, you are getting a great return on your investment in these students. And that's awesome and that's wonderful, but we will not stay stagnant or just happy with where we're at. We know we need to continue to evolve and change. And there's always room for improvement. So when we talk about the budget, and I said one of the things we're going to talk about are our needs, I really identified 6 areas to focus on: special education, athletics, capital projects, district communication and use of technology, declining enrollment, and fiscal responsiveness in general. So those are going to be the 6 areas that I'm going to talk about for the needs moving forward in the budget and how that will be realized in this year's budget. So the presentation that I'm going to show you now shows where we currently are and what the new proposed budget looks like moving forward to address the needs of the district. So starting with special education. In special education, I mentioned earlier, we have a need to be able to program differently for different student needs that we're identifying in the district. We also want to make sure that we are keeping our students here and hopefully meeting their needs here rather than outplacing them. And if we have students that are outplaced, we want to bring them back to where they can be with their peers and be in an appropriate learning environment. The current structure right now is we have a director of pupil personnel services, or a director of special education, but we say pupil personnel services, and it's a tongue twister because they also oversee guidance. And below the director are 2 department coordinators. They are teachers. They spend some of their time in the classroom and some of their time assisting the director. And we have a STEP program that is a program at the middle school and high school that helps students who have sometimes behavioral issues, a program that we have for them in-house. The plan moving forward to better address the needs of our students that are in the district as well as the students that are out of the district, and hopefully to program differently, is to still have the director of pupil personnel services, but to move the 2 department coordinators back to being full-time teachers in the classroom and to have a new department pupil personnel supervisor. It is an administrative position. It is an important position right now. We have, at the start of the year, we had 48 outplaced students. We're down to about 33 right now, but that number is flexing and possibly moving back up again. That is a number of meetings that have to be had outside of the district for PBTs. We also are required, if we have 504 students that are at a magnet or a BOAG school, we need to run and take the lead in those 504 meetings, so we have to send people out for those as well. Plus our own meetings and services within the district here, and oversight for the department, which is really important. Having 2 administrators to be able to cover all of that work is essential, in my opinion, moving forward to support special education appropriately in this district. Along with that, we are also going to develop and create a new school anxiety or school resistance program, an in-house program, based on what we are seeing is a large number of needs of our students and what we believe we can adequately fund and run here. This program will be developed for the start of the next school year. We've had wonderful leadership within the district in developing that program, so that program will run next year, and we can run it with the personnel we have here and some of this restructuring. So that's one of the ways we're going to address some of our special education needs. Technology and communication. Currently, I hear a lot from people. They would really like the website to be a little bit easier to navigate, better communication. Please help us with, even within the schools, helping us to use our technologies a little bit better. We're a one-to-one district. We've been making great advances with using one-to-one, but it's time for us to take it to the next step and really make sure that we have some oversight in this department. Currently, right now, we have a director of technology, 2 service technicians, a power school technician, and stipends for some other work. None of those people are overseen by anybody. They are kind of all independently in the buildings working, but there is no hierarchy, there is no structure there for oversight. So looking at the needs of the district, looking at the need that we are advancing our ways of communicating within the buildings as well as outside of the building, we're going to eliminate those 4 positions for next year and restructure them to 3 positions plus an instructional coach. So I will have a director of technology and communication that will oversee the department, and we'll have 1 district service technician, which I believe we have easily covered with the needs that we have as a district, and then 1 district data technician. Right now, we don't have somebody who actually pulls all of the data that we get on a regular basis as a district together and provide reports and information for instructional guidelines and guidance for teachers. We have SBAC, SAT, PSAT, NWEA, I got $5 for anyone who knows what all those are. No? Okay, so we have a lot of data that comes in, but we need to do something with it because that's important information about our students. So to have a district data technician who can take all of that in, help to create reports that teachers can use in their classroom to inform their instruction is really important. Along with that, creating a new instructional technology coach position, which is a teaching position. We utilize technology a lot in the classroom all the time. I see people that've got it here right now as they're following along and looking at things. We are remember, college and career ready. Our students need to be knowing how to use technology not only to learn, but to how to apply their learning and apply it to real world applications for what they are studying for and reaching toward. And this instructional coach will help to work with our teachers to build their capacity to do that in the classroom and keep us moving forward with that because as we know, technology is constantly moving forward. So this is a really important position because I'm also making recommendations that we change some structures as far as oversight goes within the district. So hold on to that thought about the instructional coach because I'll get to that in a minute. Athletics, looking at personnel right now. There's a .4 AD at the high school, a .4 AD at the middle school, and our athletic trainer functions here 18 hours a week. The athletic trainer hours are not enough to be able to cover the sports and the sports needs and injury needs and care for the students who are athletes in the district. We have to very much make sure that when we are currently scheduling our athletic trainer, that we schedule them to the most impact-based games because that's the place where most injuries could happen. The recommendation moving forward is that we shift the AD allotment of time to being a .6 at the high school and a .2 at the middle school. The middle school has 11 sports, the high school has over 30. In my opinion, we need to have a little bit of equity with the way that position is divided. I'm also recommending that we have 30 hours for the athletic trainer for our student athletes so that all sports can be covered adequately and all student safety needs can be taken care of if they get injured while playing sports. In addition, we are also looking at changing our fee structure for athletics. Currently, right now at the high school, students pay $185 for the year. $135 at the middle school, $30 for sports. We are looking at changing the structure and increasing the pay for participation to being $170 per student per season with a cap for a family during the season of $510. Because there are some families that could have 3 or 4 or 5 students all throughout the year playing sports, and it's a lot of money then to have to pay. Increasing our club fees to $40 and not making any other changes at this point to actual programming other than the gymnastics, which we've eliminated this year at a savings of about $11,000. We haven't had the interest, we haven't had the coach. The facility is rather expensive, so we did eliminate that this year and continue to eliminate that for next year. Capital improvements, I talked about the use of the building already. The actual needs that were put in for this year are $652,000 worth of upgrades and needs for the facility. We are proposing right now $299,999 for these priority things. The truck that we need that has a plow truck and a dump bed, the ADA work that we are required to have compliance with, the sidewalks, as many of you can see when you walk in different places, the sidewalks are still needing quite a bit of repair and upgrades. And then the fire panel is outdated and needs to be upgraded so that we actually have parts that we can get for it when they fail so that it's not a safety issue. The chimney, the soffits, and the caulking are all, again, brickwork and upper outside work within the buildings that need to be done in order to keep it watertight so that water's not getting behind things and causing bigger issues. The instructional coach I talked about earlier. Right now, I currently have a 1.0 Director of Curriculum, Professional Development, Assessment, and Instructional Technology. And each of the assistant principals at the buildings are all 12 months. Moving forward for next year, we are eliminating the Director of Curriculum, Professional Development, Assessment, and instructional technology, and reducing 2 of the assistant principals from full-time to a little over 10 months, 196 days is the teacher work year plus 10 days over the summer. In reducing the director of curriculum and professional development and instructional technology, that instructional coach is key in taking work that would happen with that person and moving that work forward still for the district and having oversight in that area. So that is a key part of why we are looking at adding that position, because we're looking at taking this position and eliminating it. Other parts of that position will be parsed out to other people that will be able to oversee that in the administration group, as well as within structures we have as a school system, like the professional development committee that we're required by the state to have. Declining enrollment is the last big area. I'm proposing an elimination or reduction of 11.6 positions. I don't know how well you can see this back there, but they are also in a handout. The positions are all listed here with how many of those positions we actually have right now, the reduction, and the proposed number of FTEs, full-time teaching equivalents, for the next year. So we're looking at eliminating an applied technology position at the high school, an art position at the middle school, which will then they'll have a reduction slightly at both the middle school and high school, but still begin offering all of the classes that we currently offer. For the technology position, offering the classes we currently offer, including Project Lead the Way. Middle school English reduction is around the idea of doing interventions differently at the middle school. Right now we have a writing intervention, a reading intervention, and a math intervention. We are looking at putting together the writing and the reading intervention to have a literacy intervention. Because best practice says reading and writing go together, and when students struggle in one of them, you use both of them in order to help build their capacity to improve. As far as family consumer science goes, we are reducing it by a 1.0 at the middle school and a 0.6 at the high school. This is where I added the 0.4 back in. It was a 1.0 reduction earlier. Based on enrollment numbers, as I said, we are reducing it just by a 0.6. Guidance has a retirement, so we are actually they have 2 retirements. One we're not filling, one we are filling. Latin, again, we'll be offering Latin through the middle school and high school, but with that reduction, we will still be able to offer all of the classes, just maybe slightly higher class numbers in some of them, but we can still offer all of them. The media center reduction. By having the instructional coach, which is a part of what some of the media center people do, by taking that position and moving it to an instructional coach that will help 712, we can reduce the media center to one person that can cover both the media centers between the 2 schools, but the instructional coach will take on that whole technology component that currently happens somewhat through that position as well, depending on which position you're kind of looking at in the media centers. High school math is a retirement. Looking at our numbers, we don't need to fill that position. High school special education. You notice that I put 2 department coordinators back into the classroom full-time. By doing that, I can eliminate a 1.0 special education teacher position because I now have these 2 people that are in classrooms full-time. Network technician, I talked about within the whole technology change. The director of curriculum I've also talked about. The PE position is at the bottom and it's in italics because that is really only the reduction of a 6th assignment, which means all the same people are going to be employed. The person who's retiring we're going to hire, but right now we just don't need to have all of the 6th assignments, which means teachers teach 5 a day, but sometimes we need an extra class, so they teach a 6th one. We don't need all the 6th assignments, so we just don't need them next year for PE, so we won't be offering them. But we're not getting rid of any personnel there other than the person that's retiring, and like I said, we're hiring for that. Progress, change. It's difficult, sometimes scary, but sometimes it's necessary. And it will help us to grow and improve as a district while making sure that we are still achieving and doing what's best for our students. This is, I know, probably very small for you, so if you don't have it on the PowerPoint presentation in front of you, it's also in the budget book. This is the overall increases. If you start with just the operating budget at the very top, our operating budget this year is $29,429,531. We are proposing an operating budget for next year of $30,102,633, which is an increase of 2.29%. When we calculate all of the revenues that we are anticipating to get, it brings the net expenditures that we're looking at for the budget down to $29,099,836, or a 2.02% increase. And it does share down at the bottom here the impact for the 3 towns. The capital budget, as I talked about earlier.
Go back on that and go over the 3 towns.
Sure.
I can't see it, I'm sorry.
No, that's not a problem, I'm sorry. So for Andover, the increase would be a 15.36% increase, or it's the percentage, sorry, it's not an increase, it's the percentage. They don't actually have the increase here percent-wise. So Andover's going from 4.1 to 4.469 million. Hebron's going from 15,497,215 to 15,283,234. And Marlboro's going from 8,888,151 this year to 9,346,867. You're very welcome. The capital increase, as I talked about, our capital budget this year is at $289,000. Next year, we're looking at $299,999, which is a percent increase of a 0.03. Again, it breaks out for the 2 towns there. For Andover, it's $42,000 this year, $46,000 next year. For Hebron, $157,000 this year, $157,000, a little bit more than that for next year. And for Marlboro, $90,000 for this year, $96,000 for next year. That gives us a total of a 2.05% increase of the capital and the operating together. Progress. We've done great things, and we are an amazing school system. We have wonderful people that drive this district forward every day. We have room to grow and improve. This budget, I feel, comes in responding to the needs of the district that I've outlined here, as well as keeps us moving forward and helps us to realize our vision, our mission, through our theory of action and our commitments. Thank you very much.
So if there are any more public comments or questions, if you could please come forward. Please state your name and then you're from.
Terry McManus, Town of Hebron, 169 North Street. Just some questions, clarifying questions. First one is FTEs. Dr. Law, how many are we eliminating?
We're eliminating 11.6.
How many total FTEs does the district have at this point?
Hold. Right with you. Well, I can tell you that we have a district total of 255 right now, 0.3 people. That includes paraprofessionals and other non-certified staff.
Thank you. And the percent increase on the teachers' wages, is that base increase or total teacher cost?
That is their step plus their GWI, their gross wage increase.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, are there further questions or public comments? Okay, do I hear it?
I'll try to do it from back here. Daniel Larson, 147 Home Valley Road, Hampton. You're talking about ADA. Are these the same ADA issues that have been discussed previously, or are these new ones? And at one time, there was some state funding that was sought after, again, back during Dr. Saminsky. Whatever happened with those funds?
I can tell you these are the same ADA issues that we were cited for before that we're continuing to work on. As far as any state funding for ADA, I'm not aware of any of that we have received. So the funding for the ADA projects that we've currently done have come through the capital non-recurring.
Okay, because at one time, it was stated that funds had been requested from the state and that there had been a favorable response. Again, I'm just wondering what ended up happening with that.
I can check again, but Jane and I are not aware of that, but we can go back and look.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there further questions or public comments?
One further question, if I may, I apologize. The number of student districts, what's the percentage of increase within the student population?
I'm sorry, you were asking about the percent decrease in students? I don't, okay. So, nope, that's K-12. I would have to calculate that for you.
But it is a decrease.
It is a decrease, absolutely.
So say that your budget is increased, students have increased, you have to be.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
The number of students is going down. The number of employees is going down. But the budget is going up. And that's correct.
Yes?
Okay, any further comments, questions before?
Mr. McManus, to answer your question, I think one of the things you need to take into consideration too is that, as my colleague Rob Shaddle said this to me today, the facility isn't shrinking either. So our facility is still the same footprint it's always going to be. So we still have the same costs for maintaining our facility. So I hope people please keep that in mind. I think I can answer Mr. Larson's question about the ADA a little bit. We do have some money, I believe, in the capital non-recurring account that we still have to complete some of, some of the projects. I'm not quite sure what that number is, but we do have a figure on that. So we are still trying to be compliant with the state on those projects that Dr. Law has addressed.
Thank you.
I think the money that he was referring to was when we had gotten involved with Senator Austin and that funding, but in light of what's happened in the state, that was denied. it looked positive at one time, but it didn't go forward.
Mal Liker, 62 Wellswood Road, Hebron. Just to address the current, or the recent comments about funding. The ADA grant that was applied for, or that was supposed to be applied for, the paperwork was due in May of 2015. It was never submitted. The funding that Senator Austin went after was not for ADA. It was for the reconfiguration that was approved and is being worked on right now. So just to straighten that out.
Okay, other public comments? Do we, I don't know, need a motion, but just want to make a motion to go, or do we just go to the meeting? I guess we just conclude that.
You make a motion to close this meeting.
Yeah, that's the special motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we will go to the music room, the chorus room, and have our special meeting that is Monday, April 2nd, that was posted.
No, I don't like that.
Okay. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special meeting for the Region 8 Board of Education. We'll begin with a call to order and roll call, so beginning at this end, please.
Superintendent Marble, Kathleen Goodwin, Hebron.
Rob Shadow Hebron.
Pat Wall, Superintendent.
Judy Benson, Marlboro.
David Gaston, Andover.
Stephanie Bancroft, Andover.
Jim Wilson, Marlboro. Tom Fremont, Hebron.
Jane Neal, Business Manager. Randy Carter,
And let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is in the back. Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So that brings us to public comments. Please state your name and the town that you are from. Public comments. Are there any public comments?
I'll make one more public
Yes.
comment. Hi, Meg Clifton, Amston/Hebron. I think it's important to note, seeing the numbers about enrollment and the town levies, hearing from a lot of Marlboro people saying that the budget is too high, or that, I think it's important to keep in mind that the number of students who will be attending next year from RHAM is increasing. And so with that comes increased responsibility for the town, because more students who live in that town are going to the school and using the facilities and taking the classes. So that's important to note. That happened to Hebron a while ago. Hebron used to be in the upper 40s in terms of our percentage. We went as high as, I think, 56%. Hebron's percentage is now moving down to 52%. So Hebron residents, like myself, I paid more 10 years ago. I'm going to be paying a little bit less now because there aren't as many students. So I think residents of Marlboro need to keep that in mind. If a larger percentage of your population is using the classes and the teachers and the facilities, you're going to have to pay a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments, please state your name and the town you're from. Okay, are there any more public comments? Okay. That leads us to number 4, report of the administration, announcement of graduation date.
Graduation will be Friday, June 22nd. Yes. May I make another announcement?
Yes.
Would you please watch information coming this week about the volunteer cleanup day on April 7th? Because Mother Nature doesn't seem to want to agree with that date, so we're probably going to be changing it, but I just don't have a change in date yet. So we're going to watch the weather, and I will let you know if we do need to change it. But
Okay. That brings us to number 5, discussion and possible action regarding the 2018-19 proposed capital improvement budget.
the capital improvement budget is in your budget book that you all just handed out to you. It's the same that you had before. The capital improvement budget is in the budget book on page 33. And there's nothing that has changed, so I don't know if the board has been really up to the board if they have any questions or conversations or thoughts about that.
And what I'll do is I'll start with Mrs. Shea, and if people, we can go back as well, but we'll go around in the circle. And I do appreciate this opportunity because I think that one of the meetings was not as well attended, and some folks weren't clear on things or abstained. So this is just a nice opportunity to ask any questions or get things clarified, which is always the format. And that's, I did ask a process question about that to Dr. Law, so.
Did I go a little bit later?
Of course, of course.
I have nothing else to do now.
I have nothing to say.
Is the truck really a necessity this year?
Yes, it really is. The current truck is not roadworthy and really is dangerous right now. So we are getting it through the end of the year. It really is an issue.
The repair, $45,000 for repair replacement sidewalk by the middle school courtyard areas. My concern with this is that it's been bad for so long, and I really don't think anybody utilizes that courtyard area. And I'm wondering if that is something we could push off to next year, if possible.
I believe and Dr. Strucy is here. I believe that courtyard area is used by the middle school. It also is an ADA access egress from the middle school that is very difficult for students who, if they are in a wheelchair or are in any way crutches or anything like that, is actually dangerous. But it is used by the middle school students in the nice weather, if it gets here. And is really in need of being addressed because of the fact that it also has ADA issues there as far as accessibility for students to get in and out of the building safely. So
are we replacing all of the concrete, or are we just replacing sections of the concrete?
We'll have to take a look. The last time I looked at the area and walked the area, it was pretty significant in the majority of that area that there's an issue, as well as the ramp area that kind of goes down to that. So all of those would be addressed in one with another item. It's up to the contractor to decide if they can soft cut things or take it all out or whatever. I'm not sure.
But just so I'm clear then, so we are addressing all of the area, not piecing it.
We're addressing that whole area, yes.
The last question I have on the capital is the softball at the ADA. In our finance meeting, it was pointed out that we do have ADA money, that we still have to finish the baseball area, right? The paving to the baseball fields,
We've
correct?
completed the ADA projects we had scheduled for this year.
Yes, but we had, part of our, the state finding was we had to pave the area between
Right.
the baseball field to the other dugout, so.
Right, that just wasn't one of the projects we had planned on yet for this year, that wasn't, right, but it is still something we have to complete.
So can I ask Jane, how much money do we have, remind me, how much money do we have in that capital fund for ADA that's left over? Can you tell me that?
I can tell you in just a moment.
Yeah, Wednesday meeting. I'll color code it.
Yeah, I didn't load it sideways. Here, this one. Here. No, that's overall. The balance is 44,000.
Okay, 44,000. So. I
As
know
of the May, or as of the March 30th. And I believe we closed that all out, so it's 44,000.
So the softball field was kind of, I don't know which one is first. So are we moving forward with the baseball?
Nope, baseball, so again, this was just accessibility down to the field.
Yep.
Right, so, and the pad that needed to go down there. That's what that was supposed to be for. Now that that's completed, and it came, well, it Because of issues we have with the contractor, we realized the savings with this because of the extended time that it took for the project to get completed. So we realized some savings from that as well. So we have additional monies that are left over from that project. We don't have another ADA project designated in that set of projects. So we can designate that money for another ADA project. The softball could be it, baseball wasn't on that list, but it is something that we also have to address.
But the baseball was part of Dr. Wood's findings, so
Yes.
we have to do that.
Yeah, so is the softball, yes, they both are.
So I believe my last meeting that I was attended is we just need to pave those two areas from the two dugouts to the two dugouts. I would think that that's not going to cost $44,000. So my proposal would be to maybe we could take this off the capital for this year, which I'm not a big fan of doing, but it is $30,000. We have 44, and we could, and I don't remember what we really need to do on the softball ADA anymore, but maybe we could get both of these done for $44,000. Has anybody looked at that?
I know that the $30,000 is the quote for the softball. I would have to get a quote for the baseball. We don't have a current one because that was not a project that was up on the list of things to be planning for yet, but we could certainly get that and then take a look at how much it costs.
Can I ask you a question about this discussion? That 44,000, is that only for use with ADA capital items?
That is
Okay.
what the board put it aside for when they set the cut the capital non-recurring account, yes.
And do you have a list of other ADA projects that you need to?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have Amy go, and then
You brought this up, and I want more information about the subject.
I know, but I have to do this, so go ahead. Do you have any questions, or no, what have you done?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So you get to go, so there.
I would have to go back and look at the report again. I believe there are some other things beyond just the baseball and the softball.
So you have a priority list, obviously, right, okay, thank you. I don't have anything in capital.
Jean?
Remember from our meetings, these were critical and necessary.
Yeah, well, I'm curious, it was brought up at the public meeting. I thought we had 300,000 to play with at one time. I remember Dr. Sheminsky got us a grant. Am I wrong?
I'm not aware.
And I thought we were chipping away at that. Wasn't there, for some reason, 300 some change? Or is that what we thought we were gonna get and didn't get?
Are you thinking about that huge submission that we made, that the folks came in from that side and said to put everything in? Is that what you're speaking of, Senator Austin and
No, not her. No,
Representative?
it was an ADA grant that Sheminsky put in for.
Are you thinking about the project that was supposed to happen this summer that got put off till next year?
No, that's the one. No,
Right.
I don't ring a bell with anybody.
We're trying to figure it out.
It does ring a bell, Tom, but I think that's maybe what Mal was talking about, where the submission had to be made in May, and not all the paperwork was submitted in time, and so it wasn't considered. I know we were talking about money for ADA, but it never came through, but we did get the big grant for the reconfiguration.
Yeah, I
That
know,
was being
yeah.
discussed around the same time.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm, it's starting to ring a bell more now. But yeah, things got all come up and then it all got thrown into one big ball.
Yeah.
I think they did get thrown into one.
In our mind, but I think there was separate trends, like you had to submit one separately, but they were submitted at 2 different times.
Yeah,
They were talking about it at the same time.
I think Representative Mulligan said, put it all in, try for it all around. So I think it was kind of grouped together. The question that Joe asked, I guess I want to be more clear in this. I mean, could we conceivably do, if this is the question, the baseball field and the softball field together at some point for a lesser amount than if we combine them? I mean, than if we do them separate, excuse me.
I think often if you're doing the same type of work and you have larger projects, that certainly you can get it at a better price than coming back and doing the project one year and then next year doing that the next one. I'm just not sure how much the baseball project would be, so it's possible.
In
but
your
I don't
opinion,
know.
is it worth getting that information?
I think we
Sounds
should
like
try to
it
get
is.
a quote. I think that
Okay.
would be helpful. I mean, the board would need to address ADA with that leftover money
Right,
anyhow.
right.
So, you could certainly remove the $30,000 out of here
Mhm.
and definitely get that done. And if there still is money that, based on the quote to do the baseball, that could be added as well. Because we currently have the $44,000 left in the ADA.
Are they using the same material as the concrete and concrete, or is it concrete and asphalt?
I'm pretty sure it's like the project that we just did, which is asphalt.
So if it's all the same material, you're definitely going to save money doing it at the same time.
Yes, but again, how much it is for the materials in those spaces, I don't know for baseball.
okay.
I do know for softball.
Okay, other questions, Mrs. Shea?
Yeah, I do recall that there was some ADA in the 10 million that we put in
Guys,
to the state
Please
for
share your ideas.
a grant through Kathy Austin. It was a total of application of over 10 million, including many different
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Well, and then, of course, included in there too was the transportation. No, wait, transportation was not part of that, no. Or was it? I think we got the transportation, but we didn't get anything else, that's all I
It was
recall.
huge. We were
It was
throwing
like $10
everything in
million.
because we were told.
But anyway, that's what I recall, I'd have to go back and look at minutes, but, also, and I just want to throw this out here because we have to make some difficult choices that we might not be making in a normal environment because of the situation with not receiving the funding, both on the town level and on the school level for education. And the truck is $57,000, and it is a necessity. And so I had asked Dr. Law a couple weeks ago to look into lease to own.
Okay.
You know, it's going to cost something, but she sent me something on request, and I don't know if you have copies or not, but
I have a single copy here, but
Yeah.
I believe I scanned it to send it to the
But-
board.
she did get a quote for, a municipal lease. And this is done a lot of times by towns in order to, if they find need to purchase a large
Right,
piece of
right.
equipment. And for annual payments of, well, anyway, I figured it out because there's also percentages in here. You can do for annual payments of $15,205 at 6.45%, which came to $15,552.36 a year. And if you take that $15,552, subtract it from the 57, you get $41,447 less than what we have in the budget for the truck for this year. Of course, every year we're going to be paying that amount, $15,500. That's a 4-year lease. Now, there also is a 5-year lease with an annual cost of, if including the interest, of $12,794.80. And if you subtract that from $57,000, it's less on our budget just this year of amount of $44,205. The total interest for the 4-year, which is in that figure I just gave you, the interest is in that figure. The total, just so you know, is for a 4-year lease is $5,290.44, and for a 5-year, it's a total interest of $7,080. So it's cheaper if you pay it off 4 years than 5 years. But knowing that we are in a fiscal crisis this year and it's going to probably roll over into next year for several years, you know, they're taking the hit for this year. I don't know how I feel like this. I don't like to, you know, be in debt myself. I don't do this money myself, but
Can I?
I'd like to see what people think about it up here.
Of course.
Okay, I'd like to know how they feel.
We'd
about
really
it.
like to hear because, you know, we have a lot of expertise here and we'll hear from
Well, no.
That's in dealing with. The only bad thing with the lease, and we did that to the town with a couple of senior vans, is you're not allowed to work on it. So anytime anything had to be done, it had to go out, like the oil change, the brakes, the tires, and it became more expensive. So, like even at the state level at UConn, they looked into leasing, and it's just, they have their own motor pool to work on it. I know we have, you know, a maintenance guy who does a lot of the work on it, so you have to take that into account as well.
What is the purchase price at the end? Is that a 10% purchase?
Well, it's 6.45%.
No, after the lease, it's a lease to own. At the end, it's usually 10% of the total price. If you want to buy it.
You want to look at it?
And there's a,
Sure.
and there's a lot of different things to think about.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know if this is the same lease that you're talking about.
And how many, Pat, how old is the truck that we have now? How many years have we gotten out of it? And
that. I'm not sure. So other comments about this lease idea or thoughts about it? No, it's good to be looking at everything.
Yeah, it's an option. I don't know if it's an option I want to pursue, but it's fun to think about. When, like I said, we're in a situation like this.
No,
And we know that we need to get our budget to a point that will be acceptable.
it's paid for in the lease. It's about
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, interesting.
I would just ask for the, I appreciate that investigation, but also like find out if we could work on it, because it might save some money here, if that's something we can do. But if Rob's saying if it's gonna cost more money, then that's wrong.
I just know the ones we had, the two senior vans for the town, and the mechanic has to send them out to get them working on.
I feel really, I know the challenges here, and, you know, we have to make some attempt to make some reductions if any, but ADA is one of those things that I really don't want to take away, but I do feel that we have enough money in the ADA and the capital non-recurring account that I think we could, whether whoever decides, the board decides on which project we're going to do, whether it's a softball field or the baseball field or both, in an attempt to reduce, I would think that we could, throwing out for discussion, maybe take $15,000 off of the ADA project and pool it with the $44,000 that we already have and get these projects off the books. And I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, so you make a motion that we take 15,000 off of this project, and then, so we use the 44,000 and the remainder to work on ADA issues.
Yes, I would reduce the capital improvement expenditure request for the softball ADA by $15,000 and to put that into, well, it'll go into capital anyways, and want to make sure that is that correct statement? It should go into capital, right? It will go into the same account.
This isn't the money we have yet, so.
No, but I mean, potentially, if it does pass, this money, the capital will go into that, where we already have the ADA money sitting in the capital non-reoccurring account, correct?
No, this is your capital budget, it's in that 109 budget. The ADA is over in your capital non-recurring budget. And remember when we did our 3 buckets?
Yeah.
That's, ADA is in the purple bucket.
But ADA, Pat, is in the capital non-reoccurring account.
Capital non-recurring is it. This would be your capital operating, and that's a different account.
Yes, of course. So the 44 that's left, and just say, if we don't use the 44 this year, do we lose it? Can it roll?
No, it's a capital non-recurring. It can sit there until, much like when you first set aside your capital non-recurring, you didn't have enough to do the ADA project, so you waited a year and put more in to be able to do the project.
And in theory, it's not enough, we could do, you know, another year, and if it makes sense to do them together. Okay,
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. I think we should be able to do it as long as it's, you know, again, we get these different buckets of money, which we should, you know, it's, so the capital is,
So you're basically, are you making the motion that from the 299, we take 15,000?
yes.
well, no, he's saying take it from the stock.
Right, but I mean, but to go forward, but like to Pat's point, it's not approved to go forward, I think. I was just trying to understand the effect of our motion, like, I think that.
Well,
Okay, does anybody
Is
want?
there a second? I mean, we really should have a second
Yes,
before we
let him
discuss
second.
it.
Okay, any other discussion, more discussion?
Yeah.
We don't seem to have all the facts about this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I hate for you to lose 15 grand out there and find out that it's gonna cost you more than what you need.
Well, go ahead, I'll let you finish.
And this money won't be available July 1st anyway. So, I mean, in terms of the overall budget, it's really not gonna make a huge amount. So, I mean, if you cut this amount, you could really end up hurting yourself.
Do we want to do more than the softball field?
Can I provide some information? I just called up the facilities long-term plan. And the ADA 504 issues to be addressed by the softball field is set for this year at $30,000, or for 20 to $30,000. We also have a middle school ADA 504 issues that have to be addressed, and that is set aside for the 1920 school year at $50,000. The baseball field issues are $45,000 per year after that is currently how they're outlined, and those are the prices that we have that were the prices when this was updated. So that is, the $44,000 will not cover that in the ADA, at least if these are accurate and up to date. And again, these are a little old, but they're not that old as far as high school goes.
It won't cover which one?
Softball, 30,000, baseball's 45,000, and middle school ADA is 50,000.
So there are 3 years.
You have 3 years of projects that will be coming through in the budget process. The 30,000 is for this year.
So another question I would have, just off the subject, because I listened to the gentleman from Marlboro talk about in the letters that were written. So every year, I just want to know for the future, before, I think Dave brings up a really good point here, how many years are we going to be in this situation with Marlboro and other towns? Because
Can we have a point of order here? I thought we were doing the field, now you're going on to Marlboro. And you said you wanted to have it.
I'm asking just a question because I'm just trying to figure out,
And what's that got to do with pulling all the money for the field? That's what I thought the discussion was about, and then Amy seconded. I mean, you brought up for a motion, so, and all of a sudden now you're talking about Marlboro.
Fair enough.
I think the discussion is,
Well, either have them drop it, and then we go on there, or
well, I think what people are trying to do, it is relevant in the way that, no, let me finish. She said point of order, let me finish. Is in the way that they're trying to look at all of the needs and how to do it year by year, and the way to do it in the most frugal way, as I know you always like, as we all do, to satisfy constituents and townspeople, that we've looked at all of this. And I have to say, yes, some has been different kinds of thinking, but I really appreciate the ideas that I've heard several board members say to at least consider how we could get these dollars lower. And I think unfortunately it is a consideration. The folks, we did hear mainly from Marlboro, so I think someone was trying to be responsive. But is there any more discussion on this?
That's what I'm
point?
talking about, Judy. He brought it up on the table about that, and now you're changing the whole darn thing around. Can't we just finish what's on the table? Which
Fine,
Joe brought up?
I have a question regarding his motion.
Fine,
Okay.
yes.
The $44,000 balance, what are we doing with that money right now?
We're waiting to see what we want to do for our next ADA project. So we have not set that into another ADA project. We have some that we have on here that we can move forward with. We're also looking to see what happens in the capital budget, and then we'll make decisions.
So that decision is discussed in the facility meeting, and is that, how does the decision?
We talked about it at the last meeting. I would come forward and give a recommendation to the board, since it's already in there. The board doesn't have to do anything other than just, I can inform the board, and we can have those discussions in the facilities meeting and bring that information back to the board. But the board doesn't have to go to a district meeting to say to do something with 44,000, because it is set aside for ADA.
So in theory, we could use that $44,000 for the softball field ADA if we really wanted.
For the 30.
The 30,000, yeah.
Yes. And
But
if
there's
it goes
another
over a little
list.
bit, there's wiggle room there.
Okay.
Okay, are there other questions?
So,
Yes,
yeah,
what
let me
comments
just
about this?
understand it. Joe, your motion was to cut the softball ADA field down to 15,000? Is that something you still want to do? That was your motion, right?
It was.
Is there any more discussion on it?
I got one more question.
From what the superintendent said, from what the superintendent said, that your thoughts were to combine that with another thing and possibly have a savings there. But it sounds like right now, the plan, the thing that you were thinking of combining with is scheduled out a couple of years, so you wouldn't necessarily get that benefit of the savings because they're not being done at the same time. So if you cut that now, you're cutting that project, and there may not be enough money to do that project.
If we cut the 30,000,
To 15.
we could, you might be able to cut it by 30 because it's good that we have $44,000.
Sorry, sure, Tom had to go next. Can
Yeah.
Tom, please? I'm getting such a headache. I'm really sorry, Tom, please.
Well, the only question I have is the work on the baseball field, we don't have really a price on it. Where the softball is 30,000, we know that. You know, like Dave said, we take the money away from it. Patricia already said it's already figured in the future. And you probably ruin that project right there if you're gonna take away $15,000.
Yeah.
And you don't know what the baseball one is to begin with.
Right.
Okay? So it don't make sense.
Okay, let's go back around. Mrs. Rapley, Mrs. Shea, Mrs. Rapley, et cetera, Mrs. Demonio. Go ahead.
I have to just repeat myself to make sure I'm getting it. We have $44,000 right now to spend on the softball field ADA if we wanted to. In theory, you can take the 30,000 out and pay and get that done now with the $44,000 that we have. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm
Other questions, thoughts before we call a vote?
Sure, we could also, when does the baseball have to be done by?
There is no timeline. What we have to do for ADA is show that we have a plan and that we are following that plan and meeting those scheduled deadlines that we've created.
So could we do that the following year?
We could, or what we have on the docket for the following year is the middle school ADA that needs to be done in baseball the year after, but we certainly could take a look to have some flexibility there.
So, I mean, you could take 15,000 from here, take 15,000 from basically the 45. So you leave that at 30. Then next year, we could put, let's say, 20 in the capital, and then that would cover the baseball in case the price went up a little bit to 50.
So,
I'm getting lost on you taking $15,000, because this is $30,000 you don't have yet, because
Right.
you haven't voted on yet. If you take $15,000 away from it, you don't have that money, you can't put that anywhere. And maybe I'm not following you.
But can you pay for it from two different accounts?
Well, yes,
So,
you
right,
can.
so you wouldn't drain the 45, you would only go, put it down to 30 if you use 15 from capital.
So you would just
15
leave
from
15,000 in here, move it,
Correct.
let it sit
Correct.
in your capital.
And then next year, we could put another 20 into this capital to cover the baseball field. Because we won't have the truck next year.
You'd have to, okay. Go ahead, Steve. If this budget got approved with just the 15,000, and you weren't gonna do it until the following year, I think you could explain to an auditor that it's a 2-year project because you've got something on the plan. And they would, you're gonna have a new auditor, so they would accept that as you would encumber that 15,000. I think by the end of, if the budget gets approved, and by the end of next year, you know what you're gonna do, you're gonna know who the vendor is, so you would be able to encumber the funds with the plan that would be done the following year. You could carry that $15,000 over, you've got your non-recurring, I'm sorry, your ADA project, that you go to district meeting and say, this is what we're gonna spend it on. So I don't think you'd have a problem with that. Okay.
So basically.
You're not gonna move it out to 3 years.
Right. But it saves us
Okay.
15,000.
Okay. Anything further before we call to vote?
Well, the other question, I guess thinking about this again, is that if I have it clear, so $30,000 is for softball, we have 44. If we go and keep the 30 in, and we spend the 44 on, what's our next project?
Middle school,
And how much is that?
50.
So why do we have to go to the middle school? Why don't we go to the baseball or whatever we can get done? Which one of those projects can we get them both done? And maybe get a better deal, as you were describing earlier, and tie it in together, and we get 2 off the books that have been lingering for so long. And then I would withdraw my motion.
So you could keep the 30 in there for the softball. You could use the 44 again. Baseball looks like it's at 45, but again, I would want a firmer quote because we didn't get that quote updated because it's 2 years out. If we possibly do them together, we might be able to with the 30 and the 44 we currently have, get them both done. It's a possibility.
In terms of priorities, though, didn't you have?
Middle school was prioritized ahead of baseball. But that was based on, that we had done several things. We had not attempted to do anything at the middle school, so we wanted to do, we've done some high school, do some middle school, do some high school. You certainly can move them, I mean, they all just need to get done.
So it was an issue of fairness.
It was an issue of trying to be equitable through the process.
What is your position?
I will keep my motion to reduce it by 15,000.
You are putting your motion forward.
Yes.
And Ms. DiMatteo already seconded it, right? So now I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
What do we vote on? What do we?
Cutting the line item for softball field ADA.
Well, doing that, now you know what you just said. You got a capital improvement expenditure plan to do the softball field for 15,000, right? That's, it's gonna say that, right? So you put in 15,000 knowing that it ain't enough to do it.
But they have money in the capital non-recurring fund that can be used to offset
You'll
that.
be able to take it for this one here. For this
Yes,
one.
that's
All
what
right,
they
good,
just
okay.
said.
Take from 2 buckets.
Yeah, let's discuss it. All
All
right,
right.
and those opposed? Okay, abstentions.
Well,
2
I
abstentions.
vote, you know.
Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Tremont abstain. Okay, thank you everyone for, so does that, did we make a,
Made a big difference.
well, number 5, do we have, is that enough or do you want us to put the dollar amount
We'll have to, so what we will have to do is, we'll have to, depending on what happens with the operating budget discussion, we'll probably need to come back with another special meeting so we can give you all of the correct amounts and percentages. I don't think we'll probably be able to have a motion tonight, depending on how much
Okay.
happens in the budget.
Fair
Because
enough.
we won't be able to calculate this accurately and make sure we have the right numbers.
I'm sorry, yes.
Do we want to talk further about the truck?
The lease.
The lease? Sure. In terms of a little more research as to what the conditions or, what the contractor would read as far as what we can or cannot do with the property. I mean, it's leased to own. We're going to own it in 5 years. I don't know if anyone else here has any thoughts, but, and I'm not a big fan of doing this, like I said, but if we want to bring this budget down, and if we could somehow do a little research and find out what the terms of this are, with a little more information, because that sheet really doesn't tell us that, what limitations there are.
It sounds like we're already coming back on this capital anyway, so certainly we should explore that further. Is that comfortable?
I can give you more details about the lease.
And including, what is the average maintenance that we would be doing? I'd like to see a schedule of what's that look like.
Yeah, and they did say.
Not now where you have a broken down truck, but somebody finds some data that would support that. I'm uncomfortable having last minute changes
Or sometimes.
in general without the research behind them and the data.
Or maybe they require it to be serviced in order to evaluate it, stick it on a computer and run.
The only thing he said, the only thing he said.
Mr. Tremont, yes.
Your facts and figures, you get them from the auto dealer, or do you?
Yeah.
I got it, she has it.
That's
right
all I
here.
got.
What, a 3-year and a 5-year
No, 4 and
lease
5.
would be?
4 and 5.
I don't mean
The 4 and the 5 year.
all right, you did get, okay, those are their figures, okay.
So I did some quick math.
And the other number two for repairs, you're under a 5-year warranty on that anyway. So no matter what the vehicle is, you gotta change your oil no matter how old it is, how young it is. And we don't have a motor pool here, so we must send the truck out, right? When they want oil change, do we do it here?
I would have to check with.
No, I mean, you probably send that out anyway. You review, you thought it ain't gonna make a difference, you still have a warranty on it for 5 years, so.
There's just a lot of
Leases makes a lot of sense.
But there's also a lot of information you don't have yet.
Okay. I'm sorry, did you want to share more?
No, we were just talking about, again, we don't know for sure the details, and it would really be helpful, so if anything, I'd like to make a motion that we look further into the option of leasing.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Wait, yeah, I want to just make just a quick comment about just rough numbers. If we purchased it outright, we're looking at $57,000. If we do a 4-year, or the 4-year lease, it's approximately $60,800. If it's a 5-year lease, $62,500. I mean, you also have the cost of your money, so I mean, there's not a humongous difference. I mean, but you are looking at about a 6% interest, so, but, paying that for over 4 or 5 years does free up a lot of capital. And at the end of the 4 or 5 years, we own it. And this is a diesel, you're gonna get a lot of money. You're gonna, with an aluminum body, you're gonna get a lot more. You'll get a good 10, 15 years out of this thing if it's taken care of.
It's gas.
It's gas? Okay. So,
I would buy gas, I wouldn't buy diesel.
right.
But we can't budget bonds.
Well, I mean,
Purchases throughout our
Okay,
budget.
so that is
It would be part of the operating
a commitment. This board next year can't say we're not going to pay for years.
no, it would, if we had a lease, it would be part of the operating budget, it would be capital anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Anything over on capital?
Wait, one more thing about this, is if we took this out of, if we decided we were gonna lease this would be totally out of the capital budget, wouldn't it?
It would be in our lease.
Because it's a lease,
Part of the lease budget,
and it would be moved.
And we have a lease purchase out of Fund 109, which is that capital budget.
I just don't know.
So when you create the capital budget next year, you have, your first one on the list is your lease purchase. And
Right,
after that.
okay. Thanks.
Anything further before we call the vote?
Can you repeat the motion? Okay, I think I said was we would explore the contract details for lease to purchase option in lieu of buying the dump truck outright at $57,000 and find out if there's any other unknowns that we need to be aware of before we make a commitment.
Okay. We've had a second, so all those in favor signify by saying aye. And I think it passes unanimously. Are there any opposed?
Opposed, I don't like lease.
Okay.
This personal preference. I'm going to change mine to no as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't agree to lease.
Yeah, we didn't.
We're just
Just
to explore it,
Yeah,
just
I
to get
think we need to know
information.
more information.
Okay.
What-
Well, we have 2 opposed. Any abstentions? Okay, so it's just for information purposes.
Can I, along, while we're talking to Pat, can you, when you do your research, also put together what the budget impact would be for a 4-year versus a 5-year lease so that we can vote on it next time and get the dollar amounts to the town so we can go to referendum? Because if we don't do that, it's going to drag it out another week. Thank you.
We have a list of things to do.
Well, I mean,
So we
instead of
don't
investigating.
negotiate.
Yeah.
That's high, 6%.
Yeah.
7%, I don't like that.
Yeah, it is high.
You can negotiate that one, but if you kids down. No one will buy it somewhere else.
All right, everyone. So we're on number 6, discussion and possible action regarding 18-19 proposed operating budget. Dr. Long, anything you want to say before?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You have both, you have in front of you the program, you have your program and personnel line item detail. You have the updated budget book that has the 2.02% and the 0.03 for 2.05%. With all that information in there, and I guess it's just up to the board. Okay. More thoughts?
Mr. Shea? You get into it.
I think it's going to be difficult. We've already, at least I know in Marlboro, and I believe in Hebron as well, and Andover, I wrote this in a presentation before the Board of Finance, but it was presented at the 1.93%, and they were not crazy about it, but they understood. And I think if we come back and say now it's up to 2.02, I don't know how that's going to go over. I don't think it's going to go over well. And so and I believe they sent those letters in before they knew it had gone up.
Just because I referenced the 1.93.
Right.
I just made that because on Thursday and Friday when we had our enrollment numbers in and we needed to make some decisions, that was the decision that I made before coming forward tonight.
Right. So I guess I would like to try to keep it at that 1.93 if at all possible, and perhaps that can be accomplished through some of the changes we propose tonight. We'll see. But that's where I stand right now.
What was that 0.6 addition, $1, $0.4 what?
It's about 30,000, about $25,000.
Okay. So you could easily accomplish that with a lease in addition to the cut this off all.
Yeah, you can do lower.
Sure.
And it'll, the other thing is that, the increase in our capital expenditures would be nullified, in fact, would be low in the negative zone, and I think that would be, very much more acceptable to the
The number now is less than last year's.
state. More.
Yes, but if we did the truck, it would be.
With the truck at 57, it's more right now.
With the 15,000 less
Okay, so taking that 15,000 is less interesting. Mrs. Rafferty?
I have to agree with Carol. The budget was presented at 1.93, and going up is not going to sit well, even though it's such a little amount. I just don't think it will sit well. I think we're going to have a tough time, and I'm just speaking for Marlboro now, a tough time in Marlboro just with the 1.93. I feel like that's a good number to go in with, but any higher than that, I'm going to have a tough time with it.
Okay. And any questions anybody has about anything at this point? Because as I said, when it came to my attention when we made a budget, when we did vote about where we thought that it still had to go before the town meeting, we needed to listen to input and that people might have questions. There were some people who abstained. There's a new board member. So, this is the time to get things answered so that the board is comfortable with the budget that it's bringing forward. And, as I said earlier, I appreciate this opportunity, which has always been there, but nonetheless, that people can feel comfortable. So,
I think it's going to be tough in any town. I don't think it's indicative of Marlboro. Nonetheless, I think the board has already done a pretty good job of looking at many of the things that we can cut, and we did offer us proposed cuts at the meeting where we did vote on the budget. So those things, if we have to go back, maybe would be the first places that we would consider, because Pat's already created that list for us. I am concerned about a high school being able to run effectively with many more cuts. I mean, 11 positions is a lot to begin with, and also to move forward by reducing. I mean, that's an oxymoron. You can't, it can't happen. So I want to be cautious about what we also consider for cuts. A high school always costs more than an elementary school to run. That's the nature of the game. Our per pupil expenditure, like Pat pointed out, is already the lowest. It's our responsibility as a board to be sure that we support our teachers and therefore our students, make sure they get what they need. I realize that we have to be fiscally responsible, but I think if we could stay to 1.93, that's pretty fiscally responsible. There's things that are going to go up too. I mean, it would almost be impossible to not consider the things that automatically go up, and also look at the things that before I got here, sitting in the seat, were already, we had no choice. We have to do ADA compliance. Those things are just there. So I hope there's also some flexibility in people's thinking about what we have to do for the school and for our students.
okay. Mr. Shadow?
I'm good.
Mr. O'Connor?
Well, I'll ask my question now too. It isn't just Marlboro. I mean, futuristically planning out here, how long are we going to, I've been on the board 5 years, and every year is no different. I hear the same thing from Mal, I hear it from Mr. Shea, I hear it from Andover, and I would agree with Kathleen that 11 teachers, 11.6 is a lot. And I know everybody's looking at us to say that this is a Taj Mahal or wherever it is, but this is a high school, and we have to continue to run it as a high school. So just for me, going forward, Marlboro is in a bit of a tougher situation. How long is the forecast? This is a legitimate question. How long are you looking at that as a projection? So every year, I know we're going to be sitting here and discussing this. I mean, it's a legitimate question that we need to know as a board, because as Dr. Law pointed out tonight, our contractors are going up 2 to 3%. We can't come in at 0 without decimating this place. So
I'm looking for some feedback. How are we supposed to, how do you want us to proceed with reductions that are going to be very, very to the bone type of reductions? I think everybody, throw it out there. Everybody's got ideas. Put them out there on the table. But I think we're at the point where we need to know what we're going to be going for the next 2 to 3 years.
What do you mean from public comment? You want people to weigh in?
This really is, this is a dialogue that I think we should all have. I mean, it's, whether it's public comment or not, I just want to know going forward if it's going to be the same next year,
Okay.
and the same next year, and the same next year. I know that someone said they don't have the crystal ball, but it's a realistic question.
Okay.
Help me anyways.
Mr. Manager?
I guess I just want the public to be aware of the difficulties that we're having this year with the financial situation and being in a deficit. The budget didn't pass last year. We came back and we cut, and then we end up in a deficit. And so I think that we have to be realistic about what we're approving and moving forward with confidence that this is what we need to operate. If the town doesn't pass it, then we have to come back. But we've heard everything about how RHAM's not covering the bills and how we're not covering. If it's going to be cut, then that's the town. We have to go back to the towns and ask for the money, and that's the reality. We can't just keep cutting from every program and trying to think that this is going to work. We cut the budget. We can honor anybody's request and go down to a zero, but the reality is this place can't run like that. We'll run at a deficit, and we'll be coming back to the towns, and that's that.
Okay, so I'll go next. I guess I am just really concerned. I guess I'll start with that statement. And I'm concerned that we're cutting coordinators, who are the folks who, are the people who have been really involved. And I know one district that cut coordinators and they're bringing them back the next year. So that's a concern I have. Guidance is a concern I have because we've asked as a board in programs guidance to do so very much. We've asked them to be there for our kids, and I think they have, in high school and college planning, and I think they have. The media center, I have a concern about cutting. My oldest daughter, who's just a very observant kid, has told me how much Mrs. Deneen does in the school, and it just worries me. How does that work get done? And this is not a criticism of anyone. It's just concerns I have that I just want to share. Math, we all know that how well you do in math and the math level you achieve at predicts income later. And regardless if you go into mathematics, so cutting math concerns me. I guess all of the things do. Network technician does, how we operate our technology. The special ed teacher concerns me as we're bringing back in programs for anxiety, and we're co-teaching, and we're doing more and more specialized instruction, and we want our kids in district and not outplaced. So it seems like having capacity here is wise. And the director of curriculum really bothers me that we, if we don't have great direction with our curriculum, it's possible that some of our great tier 1 programs and some of our programs won't be as good, and eventually that contributes to more students not doing as well with student achievement, or even potentially being recommended for special education. And this is in no way a criticism of anyone. It's just these dire times we find ourselves in, and I am just very concerned about this and what it will do for student achievement and academics in this community that we've really prided ourselves on, our student achievement, and certainly we want our teachers to love being here and to feel respected and to have the joy in the work, and I worry.
I agree with,
I'm done.
That's your point. I agree with Judy also. I think that we have an excellent school, and I'm concerned about the cuts. I do recognize that, you know, the towns have concerns about budget. There have been several people that have spoken about Marlboro and the increase with Marlboro. I did a quick calculation. It looks like Marlboro is going up about 459,000, a little less, in terms of their additional cost for RAM. Andover's going up 330,000 also. Now, Hebron's going down. So, I mean, it does hit Andover also. But our per pupil costs are pathetic. It's really pathetic. I don't think we're spending enough on students. The teacher salaries are among the lowest. And yet we have great staff here. You know, I think that you can't keep cutting. You're going to decimate the place. You'll have you'll have teachers leaving, staff leaving, and then what will you have? I think we're really trying to be as fiscally conservative as we can. I think it's a fair budget. Would there be things that I'd like to add back in? Absolutely. But we understand the times. But I don't know that we can really get that far down. Frankly, I was surprised a little bit to hear Hebron say they wanted cuts, because I thought the last meeting that we had in here 2 weeks ago, they said they were okay with it and they supported it. So, you know, and I also will say that I do echo Judy's comments about Jerry. We had teacher after teacher after teacher say how important she is to the school, and I really hope her position, that it works out with the new position, because she adds so much value to so many different areas that I think we really need to keep her. Thank you.
I'd like to reiterate some of the things that Judy and Dave said. The program cuts, and it seems like there's been a lot of a discussion about really restructuring things. And I wonder if total restructure of IT that's been working well is worth the time and energy. And the special ed, I think, is commendable, bringing people back into the fold that have been outplaced. I think that's a great idea. And the anxiety program is wonderful as well. And I had a nice meeting with Pat on Friday after I got sworn in on Thursday night. And we talked about special ed, and I'm concerned that when you develop new programs like that, it has to be done well, and it has to be done right. She has said that, yes, we have personnel in place, which is great. Then later on in the conversation, it was said that the teachers don't know their assignments yet. So that concerns me, that if you have new ideas about programs that you're going to start, you have to have your personnel in place first in order to start those things. And if you haven't really planned that out, you may find that you have extra costs in need for more personnel, more paraprofessionals, equipment, adaptive equipment you may need. So I'm not sure I'm satisfied that the new programs, which I think are wonderful, are really set in stone yet, and I'm worried how that's going to affect the budget later on. So that I'd love some, a little more concrete stuff on before.
So we have a core group of personnel here who have been developing this program. And as far as assigning the specific teacher to each of the programs, we're still making pushes to that, but we'll find out either at the end of this week, beginning of next week, so that we can now then do the rest of the planning moving forward. The majority of these people have all been part of the conversation, and how it's just to say specifically you're doing program A or you're doing program B. We haven't used those final decisions with some people.
Who's doing working together on
So Jen Hoffman, my director of special education. education, like seriously, my middle school principal, the assistant principal at the middle school. The social workers have been part of it, the school psych, so there's been, and some classroom teachers, or special education teachers. So there's been, those voices have all been the ones that have been moving and driving this program forward from its inception.
I'd feel a little bit better if I knew that the teachers actually knew what they were doing next year, so they could plan, maybe some of them might need to go out for some training.
Yep, and we're doing all that, that's why that's gonna happen, so that we can start to use then our delayed mornings and other time that we have for professional development. We're in a pretty good place for
And the
moving
budget's
these.
reflecting all that stuff now.
Well, you know, when you get down to the end, everybody's pretty much I guess I would say that if we told them we came in at one number, increasing is of concern at this point. It's a sort of a trust issue. So I'd like to see that come in. It sounds like we have some ideas, maybe some capital ways to do that. It's a critical year. I'm from Marlboro. It sounds like it's the levies that's really the concern, and I guess we risk the perception of fairness if we say we have more students and now we don't want to fund them students according to the algorithm we've chosen. And so I have concerns about perception of not being fairness, and if every town did that, every budget cycle, you would spiral down very rapidly saying, well, Hebron doesn't want to pay for their extra students this year. Meanwhile, you're eating out the inside of the schools for programming and extracurricular activities, and I don't see that as a sustainable model. I'm going to leave by saying two things. One, I was in Indiana, which has very low taxes, and their high schools don't have accreditation often as a result. I would hate to see Connecticut go down the path to not having accredited high schools, because that impacts people's ability to get to higher ed later on. Okay? Higher ed looks at that. I know I'm in higher ed. So I'm going to leave it at that as a sort of conscious movement and consciousness. Anyway, and the last thing is to say, I don't know enough about how high schools are organized, but when I asked someone what a director of curriculum was on my level, they said that's the equivalent of the provost, and that did concern me. The provost is the person overseeing all the other faculty in the institution. So maybe they were incorrect in that perception. They've been on a school board, they're in education. So that concerned me, but I'm going to have to trust you because I'm still new to all of this. So that is mine.
Well, the magic number really became 1.9.
Yeah, it did.
That did go out first, people don't forget. You know, when you do that, you kind of put a target there. You know, it's not, you saw at the meeting, somebody want to go below that. But, you know, I don't want to blame especially anybody or whatnot, but, you know, everybody throws rocks at us, but it's state level. All right, you all know that. I hope you all realize that. You know, and we talk about working with a deficit, us working with a deficit, the state's been doing it for years, okay? And everybody goes, oh, that's okay. No, it's not okay. And now they just bailed out Hartford for $500 million. Just to give you an example what they do. No,
I'm sorry.
now that goes on, now we owe more money, and I don't know if people realize when the state goes to borrow money, we pay more now for the money because we get those projects put on the state. Let Hartford take care of itself. Now we're going to get stuck with that. That's just one thing the state does, and it really irritates me, because people don't realize how much goes on and what they're starting to tax now either, okay? But they all throw rocks at us. But I think the budget's got to stay at 1.9 at least.
Okay, I know some people wanted to say something again, yes?
I just wanted to ask a request, because the March 5th meeting, I wasn't here. And on February 26th, you presented this presentation to us. And it had, I think it was one of my questions, if the budget were not to pass, you listed out the items that would be possible cuts for the second go around, which hopefully we don't have to. However, I do believe on that March 5th meeting, you started to take some of this stuff off or use it to bring the number down. Is there a way that we can yeah, an updated sheet of possible cuts if the budget doesn't pass again, or, because I'm looking at this from 226, and because I wasn't here, I don't, I guess I could go back and look at the minutes, but, like, the smart board replacement was $6,600, but I think that you guys took some money away from that. So I just want to know if there's an updated sheet that we can receive on that.
I can do that. We'll just go around. I'm sorry to.
Yeah, and just one other thing, I guess my suggestion for tonight would be, not to move anything forward at this time and have go back and take a look at how we can get back down to the 1.93. And also, we have to come back regardless for the capital, with the lease question. So that, and then hopefully receive an updated list on, future possible cuts at the 1.937.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Shea.
And, it occurs to me that we really need to find out too how much time we have left, because I know that
I have that.
you have that information.
I can give you that information, as far as timelines to get this done.
To get this finalized so that it will be within the time frame for getting the vote on the first week in May.
So the very last day that you can decide on the budget is April 23rd, which you have a board meeting. But I would not suggest that that is on that agenda, that we have a special meeting prior to that. Because then the notice has to go into the River East that Thursday to be posted for the 5 days prior. So it is the April 23rd, which is the board meeting night already. I would say we need a special board meeting probably next week in order to bring this budget back prior to vacation, so that that's taken care of.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is the action to take, because once we get that final figure out there, we're going to have to do some talking to people and explaining and let the public know what is included and how it really works.
The only thing, okay, I agree with what Sue said. I would hope that we don't have to cut anything else, though. I mean, I think we need to get to the 193. Things are going to happen, though. And that's the other thing, it's humanity, it's not stagnant. We're talking about kids, so there is going to be some, hopefully not huge, but, adding a teacher here or there based on enrollment, that's, par for the course. If it's April 23rd, there's that April break in there.
Yep.
That's going to be a problem.
Well, we do have next week, so we can have a special meeting just for the budget next week, the week of the 9th.
We can meet here when the school's out. I mean, if...
Well, people might be traveling.
Oh,
Sorry.
I mean, there's nothing...
Yes, you can.
No, but there's nothing
The
legal.
other thing is, I think it's important for us to discuss, I know we can't go out as a board and say, you need to vote for the budget, but are there opportunities for other people to be letting community members know what the budget is and, why they should vote for it? And, we have the 6th grade thing coming up April 24th. Is somebody going to be there to say, this is the start, if you don't have a child who's already gone through RHAM, like me, my son's coming next year, I'm selling him RHAM. I want him to like it, so, I want to be sure that, I'm sure there are other 6th grade parents who are, want their child to come to a school that they can trust their child to be educated in an accredited place, as we've talked about, a safe place, and with the proper supports for the staff who are going to educate them. You only get one chance at 6th grade or any of the other grades, and I want to be sure that we as a board have done our best to do that. Granted, we have to be fiscally responsible. I'm not saying, they get the Cadillac, they might drive away with something smaller, but we have to be sure that we haven't slighted them, and I think the 24th or other opportunities to get to parents to let them know, we need you to vote for the budget. We can't tell them how, but at least we could hear a little bit more if we had more people.
And that will certainly be creating for the board once we have a final budget budget a little talking sheet, talking point sheets for you so that you have that to be able to have those conversations.
A list of all the opportunities for people to go out to those would be great too.
What do you mean by
You
that?
know, so like I'm saying, like the sixth grade night, you know, parents coming, and, you know, those types of venues that we can be able to speak to people or, you know, give something out to say, you know, here's the budget, you know, and here's why you should vote for it, or here's what it has in it, or, you know, here's how we got here, you know, for people who don't watch the live stream or, you know, don't know how we got to this point. Because I know from just speaking, as we've only been on the board, I've only been on the board a little bit of time, but to get to where we are, I mean, Pat and Jane have done a lot of work for the board to get us to where we are. They've answered a lot of hard questions. You know, sometimes it feels kind of like we're, you know, at them, but it's because many of us don't live the world you guys are living. We don't understand. So it's not like we just got here, you know. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that.
Like the journey of that. Mr. Shadow?
Couple of things. I did ask a question that never got answered, but that's okay. I think I got the gist of it. So some of my concerns, a question that was in the presentation, Dr. Law tonight, about the .4 added to family consumer. So maybe you can walk me through how you came to the .4, and if we have all this enrollment, is a .4 enough?
Yes, it is.
And what's that based on?
It's based on the actual student enrollment numbers that we now have in from students going into like Power School and registering for classes, looking at where the registrations are, looking at the fact that we do have some reductions in some areas where there are electives, and that making sure that students have enough electives available to them to be able to complete their schedules, meet their elective needs, and still, not every student will get every class they want, they never do, but making sure that we have enough electives available for students to complete their schedules and meet their needs. And so I've looked at the high school numbers. They do an amazing job of creating a very intricate spreadsheet of that information. Again, this is just what students have requested. It hasn't been dumped into the scheduling thing, which will pump out kids anyhow.
One of the conversations I had with you a couple months ago was about talking about retraining. I think it was mentioned here tonight that we have some exceptional employees here that some of them are potentially losing their job. I would hope that we were going to reevaluate that and look at what the benefit of losing these employees is and versus retraining them, which the military does. When gentlemen and ladies come home from war, they're retrained. I think the Power School person who is, I will say this, that I have always appreciated as a parent getting my children report cards and information on a timely matter. And I think that's, to lose someone that has that kind of experience, and I would hope that you would look at the person you're trying to do. I think that's a little bit much. And I'm very concerned about the morale and losing the quality of these people because they are part of our community. That's big with me. I really want to, we've gone out and looked at giving additional resources in special education. People are asking us to make cuts on certain things. I'm thinking maybe we bit off a little bit too much this year on some of these reductions. And I would like to see you reevaluate these positions and see if these savings, we can keep these positions for our quality people and retrain them into the areas that you're trying to accomplish, utilizing our resources that we have in place. I think that would go a long way with morale. I think it also would help us in our savings because I think what Jean has talked about, or someone mentioned, that these are all fine positions to, or plans to have, but we're going to be potentially looking at additional resources if this plan is not successful, meaning outplacement. I am also concerned, as Dave was, about the IT department. I just don't see how that's going to work. There's not enough detail there for me, Pat. I think what we have in place for this year is sufficient. That's my take on it. You are the expert. We have 100 other experts in our building that are professional, certified people that have opinions, and they should be listened to. And I think we need to really, as us as a board is struggling to figure out how to ways to reduce, we need to have the buy-in of our faculty and really start thinking about what is important this year. And I would support you on the special education piece. I do support that. But I think some of these other reductions, I will echo Jerry Deneen, as we've done a lot with her. She's brought the one-to-one technology into the school. She would be a terrible loss. And I really just want us to rethink about a lot of these positions. I think some of us on the board have that concern that we've gone too deep here. And I would hope that you can be creative, which I know you are, to whenever we come back in our meeting next week, that we can all think about ways to save a little bit, but not lose our core people.
And still, I do think that in this proposal, there is plenty of creativity and opportunity in there for people. So I think that is available. And we can continue to have that discussion and talk about that moving forward, certainly.
Great.
We're just like going around again on the budget. You know, I think this is a terrible task we've been presented with. So as I have said repeatedly, it's not about anyone's thoughts or decisions or vision or anything like that. It's just having to come in with such contractual obligations and student needs with such a low amount of 1.9, which I agree with folks on is realistic. And I just, the reason I said I'm worried is because I am. And I just don't want to be, oh my goodness, what happened when things, you know, the people who make the trains run on time behind the scenes aren't there or aren't doing that work. I do love the idea that Mr. O'Connor, excuse me, said about retraining or, you know, expanding the capabilities and capacity of folks who want to, you know, people who are interested in that. I think that could be just a great idea. And I have been in support of the special education position, but I guess I would say this, I would hope that it wouldn't be at the cost of other positions or jobs or something. And then, you know, any retraining we could do for whether they're coordinators or APs or whomever, if anybody's interested, I just think that could be invaluable. So. Yes, I am.
I just wanted to respond to, there was someone who had asked questions about costs and how are the costs going up if we're, you know, reducing staff by 12%. Some of the things that people don't understand is that in this day and age, I think last year we started out at what, 6.5%. We tried a budget, a couple times it didn't work. You had said it was total was 2.78. I thought 2.78 was the operating and the that the capital was another percent. I thought we were closer to 4, but maybe not last year. But I mean, we're lower right now at, even if we're 2%, that's still lower than last year, and there's a significant cut to our funding from the state. We have salaries, we have benefits. Salaries and benefits are somewhere 75 to 80% of our budget. So the amount that the superintendent can really change is very little. And we're not running IBM, we're not running a bagel shop. We're a school, so we're teaching kids. And anything that we do really shouldn't touch the students that much. If we make any more cuts, they're not gonna, we're gonna have to make cuts to arts, sports, electives, and those are the things that keep the kids in school. And they provide enrichment, and the universities demand that. You can't just have math and science on your resume and get into a good school or get into the school you want to. You have to have those electives. You have to have those clubs, those sports, the arts. So I can't imagine how we can get below 2% and still provide a quality education here.
Dilly.
So, I mean, I think we kind of did that to ourselves with that 1.93. We said, hey, there's another list, and they may come up with a list, and I'm a little nervous about coming up with a list of possible places to cut, because you're really going to be stripping the school bare, and it kind of makes people think that we have extras that we're not touching.
Yeah.
And it's really not true. We don't have places to cut.
Yeah, but this is the list that was given to us.
I know.
And I think you guys took stuff out
You
of
did,
it.
I don't
did.
think the whiteboards.
We
no,
did,
but-
and I don't think we should.
But that's what I'm saying, I would like to
No, I
know
know.
what you guys took out next March.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I want.
That's fair.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Yes.
I think one of my, another concern of mine is the IT technician. I'm a little unclear of how many people are actually going to be working on equipment. It looks like only one, and there's so many pieces of equipment in the school. And when your technology now, we're so dependent on it. When it goes down, the school goes down, learning goes down, and I believe you have 2 technicians now, and going down to 1 could be a real problem.
I'll echo a little bit of that, because I'm in the middle of kind of a rather critical upgrade on my system. And it's not easy, and there's a perception that I turn on my LMS system and walk away from it. And in fact, it is in and of itself practically a full-time activity. But I have all these other duties and hats to wear. So I think I'm going to echo that again. Those were decisions you made, and you would hopefully revisit them if it's not going well. And it's also Mr. Tremont.
No, no more comment.
Okay, so it sounds like we need a special meeting. Okay, so we'll, is that fine, acceptable for everyone, that we'll have to set a special meeting?
Is there any way that we could possibly talk about it now, because
Yeah.
otherwise we need to get the thing posted?
Yeah.
Make a motion, set it for next Monday.
Make the motion to go past 9:30 before we do that.
Okay. Can you make a motion to do it?
Make a motion, we extend the meeting for another half hour, 9:30.
Second, okay, all those in favor?
Make a motion, we set a special meeting for next Monday, 6:30.
Second. It's the ninth. You want, what day are you on?
Let's make it so everybody can be here.
Why don't we do it at 7, so some people, well, there's a couple people that stuff they can make the night, so is there any other? The only day I can't make next week is Wednesday.
There's a facility subcommittee meeting that can be canceled, but it is on Tuesday the 10th. There's a program subcommittee meeting on Thursday the 12th. I'm not available on Friday the 13th. I can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We can change the subcommittees if we need.
Will we have a forum for Monday? Who can't make Monday?
I'm checking.
Well, with 1 week, I'm not sure it's going to be realistic to find a time where every
Right.
single board member can be there. That just doesn't seem to work.
I cannot make the 11th.
I can do Monday.
I can make Monday the 9th. I cannot make the 11th.
I can be certain about Monday and Tuesday. Looks like I'm going to be doing an upgrade some night, either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday night. So those 3 I can't do.
Can you phone in on Monday? But are you trying to possibilities?
Well, I'm just saying, if we alternate Tuesday.
So what was discussed, maybe we should do a show again for Monday, Tuesday, night.
Yeah, do you want to do a show of hands? How many people can make Monday? How about Tuesday? How many people can make Tuesday? You can't do. I can't. I've got, and Wednesday I definitely couldn't.
I can't, let's do Monday.
Okay. All right, does that bring us to, okay, sorry, vote on the motion.
It was Monday,
Yes.
hang on, it was Monday, Tuesday,
Monday. Yeah, Monday, all in favor.
Monday.
Well,
No,
that was the motion.
Friday the
It was a
13th
motion
made Monday.
isn't available.
The motion, we're voting on Monday.
The motion was Monday.
Or just Monday?
Yeah, what time? That's a good point. What, do you want to set a time?
I'd rather have 7. Can we do 7?
I'll friendly amendment. That's 7 o'clock, fine. Will that help? Okay.
Yeah.
March 9th, 7.
I'll lose.
All in favor? April.
April. April, that's right.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know why we don't just schedule every Monday 3 times.
I know. Well, you know, I think it's been,
I think we said 7.
okay, opposed, abstained. All right, so are we on public comments? Public comments, please state your name and address. Sir?
Ray Beer on 137 Centerbrook Drive. I'm a member of the Hebron Board of Finance, and I'm also a parent, so this is a personal note. Ever since I moved here in 2008, before I moved here, I looked up the education system here, and of course I chose the town because of the education system. Since I've moved here, there's been cuts to the schools consistently year after year after year after year. It's been a spiral, race towards the bottom, and you can't get any further than at the bottom, so you're there. With that said, you have a responsibility of this coin, which is a two-sided coin, which is a social responsibility as well as an economic responsibility. Being as that is, the decisions that I've heard here tonight, I appreciate, but I want you to know that the cuts that have happened have been effective on the children, both on my kids and their peers. That's the reports that I've gotten. And it's obvious
cuts,
in,
sir?
what's that?
Which cuts, sir?
The cuts to the school, the cuts to the curriculum, the overall cuts to the budget that affect the staff, that affect the students, because they are aware of the cuts. And my daughter is graduating this year, and obviously she's been affected by the increase in cost for the parking. But and just to support that is obviously you have an increase in your line item for stress to these students, which is reflective of what your circumstances today. So I guess the best thing I can tell you is that if you can't get any lower than you've gotten so far, and the results have been that you're seeing this in both the students and the system, I hope that weighs heavy on your heart and heavy on your mind, because that's where it's going and that's where it's at, really. It's affected the communities, it's affected the people, and sadly enough, it's affected their students. So, thank you very much.
Public comments.
Keith Bennett, 92 Old Colchester Road, Hebron. You know, you guys, I want to congratulate you and thank you for all of your hard work and everything that you put in. I think a lot of people don't realize how many hours you spend away from your family supporting these kids. And I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the number that you're trying to get to. You know, I mean, you're doing better than in years past. But with that in mind, you also, I mean, we talked about equity a little while ago between high school, middle school, high school, trying to balance the projects that we're doing. It's the same thing with the towns. I mean, when the town board of eds are flat or making reductions, and they don't see that at the regional level, you know, there's that feeling of inequity, you know. So I would stress to the board that you try to cut as much as possible. And I do thank you for the cuts you've made already, but just keep that in mind going forward, that that's where the towns are coming from. They're looking at their own internal stuff being flat or negative. You know, that's where they're coming from. Thank you.
Public comments. Mr. Shea.
Dick Shea, Marlboro, Board of Selectmen member, speaking individual. A few things in regards to Mr. O'Connor's inquiry about the percentage increases. I don't remember the exact number, but I think for at least the next 3 years, Marlboro steps up about 1% a year. Right now, we're at a little over 32% of the RAM budget. I think in 3 years, we'll be over 35. So we'll probably be more ornery then than we are now, and that's saying something. I would like to say I'm encouraged by Dr. Law's initiatives. I think in many large organizations, you get in a situation where everything has to be the way it always was, because it always was that way. She seems to have something of a fresh approach, and that certainly is necessary. It's going to make people uncomfortable. It's going to have its effect on morale, and not all of it's going to work. We have to do something because we can't afford the present model. I think I'd like to encourage further new approaches. The advent of the computer, and with students with every one of has one in their pocket, has tremendous possibilities. I suspect we scratched the surface, but there's much more that can be done that will allow us to do more educating with fewer resources. The state situation, I think it was Ben Barnes, the state's budget manager, who said we are in a permanent fiscal crisis. And it surprised me that he said that, although it's quite true. And the CBAC agreement, they just came in and locked a third of our expenses in for the next 10 years, have locked us into that crisis, along with other considerations. That's not going to get any better. It's likely to get a whole lot worse next year. So we have to be ready to do the best we can with continued reduction in resources. Now, on the bright side, I think in a couple of years, the debt on this school budget goes down considerably. If I remember right now, it's about 10% of the budget. And somewhere around 2021, 2022, it goes down sharply, and that may free up additional funds for other purposes. We're going to be looking at a sizable saving every year in our energy costs once we've paid off the gas loan to Hebron, which I think is one more year, maybe two. And I'd also like the board to keep their eye on the possibility of drawing in additional students from other towns who don't have a high school at this point. Columbia comes to mind. I'm not familiar with the details, but I understand there are other towns who might be approached that would be attracted by our scholastic reputation, our facility, our teaching staff, and our low student costs, and might help us with economies of scale. So it's not all bad, but it's a tough situation, and I appreciate the comments among the board members recognizing that if we go to the taxpayers asking for too much, we'll come back with nothing. Thank you.
Public comments.
I'll put my 2 cents in. Ethan Spinelli, I'll speak tonight as a resident of Marlboro, going to Rivendell. living in Marlboro, I'm under no delusion that my taxes are gonna go up, regardless. And the Marlboro can point fingers at RAM and say, you're the reason. I get it. But if RAM's not the reason, there's gonna be another reason why my taxes go up. And that's life, death and taxes. Those are the two things I can count on. So what I see is an opportunity. If Marlboro has the most students coming to RAM, there's an opportunity to get the most votes for yes, to pass the budget. So what we need to do is figure out a way to get those people who have students coming to RAM or already in RAM, in Marlboro, to come out and vote. That's really what the issue is. How do we get people that are invested in RAM, that don't have the time to come tonight, or feel that you're going to take care of it, or our elected officials in Marlboro are going to take care of it? How do we get them to come out and vote? And since that is the largest number of the RAM population, that's where we can make the biggest impact. That's how we're going to get this budget passed. Don't second guess yourself. You did a lot of work. I've been here every night with you on Monday. You put the time in. You put the effort in. Don't let a certain group come in at the last minute and say, this is not what we want. We need more. We need more. We need more. You know, you hear kids being affected. Parents here tonight saying their kids are affected. Teachers are affected. Eventually, that's going to affect the towns. That's the bigger picture that I think a lot of people don't see when they come here and say, RAM just doesn't do enough. If you're not a town that's attractive to people to move into, people will not move into town. Marlboro should be lucky to have enough families coming to town that are willing to send their kids to RAM because they know of the reputation of RAM. Once RAM loses that reputation, families will go somewhere else. They will find somewhere else to go. And if it's not Marlboro, it'll be Hebron, and it'll be Andover. If we just become like every other school, why would people come to these communities? So I see the opportunity. Let's take it. I don't know how we get the word out. The teachers are ready and willing to get the word out. We can get people to vote. People in Marlboro have a vested interest now. If the people of Marlboro truly do not want this to happen, let them come out and vote. But I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. All those families with all those kids, either right now or in the next couple of years, they're going to want to know what's going on, and we can get this done. So thank you again.
Public comments?
Do we have, is there any session?
Is there any?
Yep. We're ready to go.
Track that. Yes.
Friend of my friend is here.